Hey guys, welcome back. It is your favorite Gimp with the Limp, and I'm here with a special treat for you. That is right, World at War 85 Blood and Fury. It's now on the table. I can confirm its existence. Yes, it's out there. All you crybabies can stop crying about it. The game is being delivered. As we speak, everything's starting to ship out, so yay, perfect. But I've got to give them crap. I can't believe they would do this to me. I mean, look at the state of this rulebook. I mean, how could the people at Lock and Load be so horrible? Nah, I'm just kidding. My dog got a hold of it, tore it to pieces, and I'm not done using it yet, so this is a problem. David was nice enough to say he would send me another one, so I definitely appreciate that. And we're crossing our fingers. I'm trying to beg one of the big maps off of him, because I plan on doing a playthrough of that one. But I am going to do another playthrough as well, a shorter one, so I can get something up in the meantime. Now, this is a review, and more aptly, it's what's new, right? Because World War 85 is not new in and of itself. Storming the Gap came out a few years back, and it was the hot button item of its year. Everybody loved it. It was top of the list, and Blood and Fury is no different. Excuse me, it's carrying on what we already liked, right? Storming the Gap was just the bee's knees. Honestly, it was one of my first games where I knew I kind of got there, right? That I'd hit my mark as far as covering war games, because here it was, I had a publisher giving me a prototype copy to go home and play with, and I try not to act too excited, like, yeah, I want to be asked to the dance, but I'm not going to play it up, and like, yeah, we'll get you a copy. Yes! Because I was tickled pink with that game. I had a lot of fun with the prototype. Had a lot of fun with the finalized copy that I have. I still got the big ass map, laminated canvas map that they did for the first one. It's an outstanding game. The review, I'll make it simple for you. It's great. It's good. Right? There's no question about it. It is carrying on World of War 85, and World of War 85 was great. Right? The game system hasn't changed. This is just more of what we already liked. So if you played the first one and you liked it, I guarantee you're gonna like this one, right? If you haven't played it, then what are you watching? You can't even call yourself a war gamer. It's a good game. It's definitely worth playing. This just expands it out into new territory, new units, new things going on, and some improvements to the game as well. Briefly, just to touch base on the usual review items, we'll talk about the components. Now, the copy that I have is one of those pre-production copies against it, but it's production, right? It's the production version. Right off the bat, the box is sturdy. It's big. I think they increased the thickness on the actual box size itself to compensate for all the weight, because there's just a massive amount of goodies. All the component quality is good, just like we saw in Storming the Gap. There really isn't a difference in component quality between Storming the Gap and Blood and Fury. The components are the same publisher. You're going to expect to see stuff like that. When it comes to the counters are nice. They're pre-rounded. I only had a couple, right? Just a couple that when you're punching them out, that they started to stick a little bit. Generally, it's not a problem. I don't think it's going to be a problem with this game. Like I said, that can happen just occasionally on the pre-rounded counters when you're pushing it out. I found the solution for that, if you do have any that do it, is to push from the backside out instead of pushing them down, right? And that'll keep it from having any potential tears or anything. Like I said, I only had a couple that were sticky. The rest were perfectly fine. So I wouldn't anticipate this being a all game issue. It's probably more I just had a couple that didn't get cut perfectly. Cards are good. There is a huge amount of cards in this game. You're going to have your formation cards that you'll see when we start getting into the examples of play. The unit cards? Best way, I forget the exact terminology, but cards for designation of all the different types of units and their stats and their pictures and all that good stuff. You're going to have those. You're also going to have the solo cards included in every game box, right? And that's a step that I definitely appreciate them taking, because In older Lock and Load publishing games, you didn't get the solo thing. You had to buy it separately as an expansion. Now it comes right there in the box, just like Heroes of the Bitter Harvest. Here we have the solo cards included. I'm going to show you that more specifically when we get into the example of play, but these have been expanded a little bit to have some extra flavor to the cards besides just neutral, offensive, and defensive for the cards. There are some faction-specific cards as well that will cause certain events or things like that. They are all numbered, so if you play all the different scenarios, it tells you what number cards to create your solo deck, depending on if you're playing one side or the other. You can play both sides solitaire. It adjusts the solitaire deck, so you're not going to have defensive cards if the enemy is supposed to be offensive, right? So that's great. It's right there in the order of battle for all of the different scenarios in the game. When it comes to the player aids, this is the Lock and Load publishing game. There's a buttload of player aids. Good part for me that there's a lot of player aids, since my dog turned my rulebook into a chew toy, is that once you understand the rules, you can pretty much find anything that you need to know on one of those player aids. So that's definitely a good thing for me. I definitely appreciate it. But while we're talking about the rules, now, yes, the rule book's power bound, the companion book's power bound, putting that off there right off the bat. The player aids are the thicker cardstock that Lock and Load Publishing always uses. But I want to include this caveat. I'll make sure I don't forget to mention it. They have created a chat bot. I'm going to have a link down below in the description, so you can go to this link and type in a question. And I experimented, just seeing what it did. Typed in what is direct fire or how to perform direct fire, something along those lines. Chatbot sits there, thinks for a little bit, comes back, lists down all the steps. So if you've ever got a question about how a rule works, you can go to this thing, type in your question, and it will give you the answers. They are using AI. It's beautiful. I love it. I can't believe that it's this simple, right? It's an index at your fingertips now. You don't even have to resort to the rule book. You can simply ask the question, and the chatbot will tell you whatever you're looking for. I'm not even going to say for the most part, thus far in my playing with it, I haven't had it not answer the question that I've asked. I mean, it even said 42 when I asked the meaning of life, so the thing's on point. Only other component when it comes to the game is going to be the maps. There are 4 in the main game, which honestly I think is a little low for a game of this size. I would have liked to see maybe a couple more maps included. They're made out of the same stuff that the player aids are, which is that thick cardstock, which is great because it means that they're sturdy. You're not going to tear them, as Gimpy's Gal's done to some of my other paper maps. However, that means that they don't lay flat near as easily, right? So paper map, you can lay it out, that thing's going to flatten, or you can put something on top of it. Since these are thicker and sturdier, it's a little bit harder to get them flat. This is perfect time for any of you who have plexiglass to break that out and use it. It'll solve all your ills on that. If you don't have it, you don't need to go out and get it or anything like that. It's still a paper map. You can still get it to lay flat, bend it back a little bit, and it will be fine. But just keep it in mind, you don't want to accidentally crease it somewhere you don't mean to, because if you do, that crease is likely to hold just because of the material they use. It's more durable, but because it is more durable, some caveats have to come with that. But when I talk about the maps not being enough, there is an expansion to this. I think it was included at certain levels with the pledges. And the expansion is Operation Red Gauntlet. And Red Gauntlet has 11 maps included with it. 11 maps. There's plenty. Wait, no, not 11. 9. I counted 9 maps in mine. That's right. Because the full thing equals 8. And I was wondering what the 9th one was. But regardless, if you get that expansion, you've got just oodles and oodles of maps. Plus, that's the one that I really want to try out. And I don't normally leave a game on one of my tables for an extended period of time. I'll leave it there for a week or so I can film it, and I'll do my review, maybe a little example of play. This one I'm willing to leave up longer. That's why I'm trying to, hey, David, send me the big map. Because I want to set up the big map, and I want to play through a good chunk of it, right? You know, film as much as I can and then just upload that piecemeal as I can, because this game really starts to shine when you start seeing it in scale. And the smaller maps, the smaller skirmishing, yeah, it's fun, it's cool, it's whatever, but huge map, bunch of units, all the different formations, a stack of formation cards that you're pulling through as you're activating formation after formation. That's really where I think this game starts to shine and just show its nature. You've got this formation activating, and then this over here, you've got no telling when what's going to happen, right? Because it's all based on the formation cards. You're not even guaranteed this turn. If you miss the turn, though, you are guaranteed the next turn, which is nice. It's intuitive, makes it easy. But it gives so much randomness and just chaos to the battle that it begs to be played solitaire. A game like this works so well, and you know me, I love playing it solitaire. It works just perfectly for solitaire because the battle is chaotic, right? It's not going to be one side activating all their units and you wait for half an hour, like, okay, are they done? No. Okay, let me know when they're done. Defensive dice are, after all. Speaking of defensive dice, they included green ones now. So you got blue, red, and green. Green to account for defensive dice added from things like terrain. And I don't have any green dice in my box. They're sitting on David's floor. I had to laugh at him over that. Not a big deal anyway. I've got gravity dice that I'm going to be using with this thing anyway, so I wouldn't have used them. But keep that in mind. You do have extra dice now that it can count for things like defensive fire, because some dice will have a value that they'll block a hit on a 6, and some will do it on a 5 or 6, and then heavy armor is different, blah blah blah. You'll see again the example play, but they did include extra dice so you could have that differentiation for what was like terrain or added defense bonuses. Good stuff. But yes, the complete random nature of just when what is activating, you never know. It's not one side doing all their stuff and then you doing all your stuff. It's this formation here and then this one and then back to here and then maybe an airstrike's coming in. It's all just flowing back and forth as you play through the turns, and it's just a thing of beauty when you really see just the map change as the battle goes on and on and on and on. And you see wrecks piling up and fires and craters and rubble buildings. It just looks so neat. One thing to mention, though, Scenario 21, that's the one I'm looking forward to playing for you guys, does require some units from Storming the Gap. So if you don't have Storming the Gap, you can't do the big scenario, because there are a few formations from that game that are getting added over. Just an FYI to keep in mind, most people, I'm assuming, are going to have Storming the Gap, but if you don't have Storming the Gap, just keep that one in mind. Oh, and I forgot to mention this earlier with the counters, but we're going to touch on that now. I just remembered something I wanted to mention on that, because I've got myself a nice little list of printed out items, and this is all the new and different things between Storming the Gap and Blood and Fury. So just the things to expect. That's one of the main reasons I'm making this, because it should be obvious that the review is going to be good. It's World War A5. I mean, if you know, you know. But we need to know what's new. So the game introduces the British Army of the Rhine, and that's one of the things I did notice. There's a buttload of British units, and there's barely any American units. So not a whole lot of those. There's West Germany, East Germany, British, smattering of US, and of course a whole lot of Soviet units as well. Featuring units such as infantry, challengers, chieftains, swing fire missiles, Lynx anti-tank helicopters, engineers, and other support units. Additionally, the expansion Operation Red Gauntlet includes further forces like the Parachute Regiment. So rock on, cool stuff. The enhanced gameplay markers. This is what I was talking about. I didn't want to forget to mention. They have revamped some of the commonly used game markers for ease of play when you're looking at it. And I can understand why they did that, because in Storming the Gap, all of the admin counters were the same size and shape as the unit counters, so occasionally it could blend in. Now things like your ops complete markers are circles as well as a bunch of other markers. So your units are going to be square, and these admin markers are going to be circles. The Ops Complete marker also has a NATO side and a pack side, so it's blue and red, making it easier for you to identify when you're just looking at the map. I think the previous one, they were all red. And the other status markers that are red, or not red, are round, are out of command, disrupted, your helicopter status, so like flying nape of the earth, and missile status. So if you're reloading or low missile count, out of missiles, those counters are also now round to make it easier for you to see them. There is also new types of terrain being included in this game as well. A lot of it having to do with Operation Red Gauntlet. We are going to have tunnels. This is representing sections where the middle canal, I believe, crosses the Weser River, creating passages under the road pass. There's also dense urban, and that's found in the heart of Minden. This terrain type is more restricted to armor units, but advantageous for infantry. And it's already kind of like that anyway. You know, urban terrain gives infantry a good defensive bonus. It gives armor an okay defensive bonus. And my guess is this is going to expand upon that. Light industrial. This terrain includes a variety of man-made constructions such as factories, dockyards, buildings, and rail yards. It provides cover but not completely block line of sight. So, you know, you got a dock, you got a bunch of stuff there, but you've also got a lot of open passages, right? You know, where big trucks and the like would be moving through. So it does not completely block a line of sight, offering versatility for future map designs in the series. Cool. Love it. And they also have the major river hex sides. These hex sides along the Weser River and Middle Canal limit casual river crossings, adding a new layer of strategic planning. Core rule adjustments, and this is going to be in the 2.2 version of the rules, which sadly I no longer have as they became a chew toy. I have the 2.0 rules, but not the 2.2 rules. The new green dice that I mentioned previously, that it addresses feedback they had received for certain light armor units which only have an armor value of 6, were a disadvantage compared to infantry units who are getting better defensive bonus. You would expect light armor to be better than infantry, blah blah blah. So the green dice being added. They have adjusted offboard artillery guidelines in the design your own rules. I don't use the design your own rules too much. I'm generally pretty much on with their scenarios. But if you have been using the design your own, new thing for you to check out. High rate of fire HE and alternate AP values. This is cool. I was looking at this because I was, what the hell's going on here? Basically, this is for vehicles like our Apache that has HE. Well, normally HE can't affect armored vehicles. You're going to use your AP, your armor piercing, but high rate of fire HE, so they're firing a bunch of rockets, stuff like that. They can, high rate of fire can affect heavy armor vehicles. And alternate AP values would be the best analogy I can think of, even though I don't think Bradleys fall under this, is think of something like a Bradley that has tow missiles. Well, they've got a high AP value, but if they're out of missiles, they could fall back on their, was that a 30 mil cannon, 25 mil cannon? Can't remember the size of the cannon on the Bradley. Whatever it is, 30 mil cannon, firing. Even though I don't think the Bradleys have the alternate AP values. There's not many. There's a handful of units that do have that. So if they're out of missiles, they fired all their anti-air missiles or whatever, they do have another AP stat they can use. This AP stat is generally going to be lower than your missile stat because missiles are pretty good. They also added range limits for indirect fire units using direct fire. So an artillery self-propelled gun or something like that, or a mortar team or whatever on the map. So an actual unit, not an off-map artillery strike, but a unit on the map. they are going to have limits. And I think that's all the way from 0 up to 7 hexes. So if they're directly sighting in, they can fire, but they're going to be limited that the unit they're firing at must be so many hexes away. And you know what, that makes sense. The heaviest guns have up to 7 hexes away, so they're not going to be sighting in. You want to keep the artillery in the back where it belongs. The solitaire play deck I already mentioned, including Blood and Fury, has been enhanced with new event cards specific to British, West German, and Soviet nationalities. These cards are optional and can be removed to use the deck with Storming the Gap. The previous solo deck remains compatible with all games in the series, as well as the Nations at War series. Nations at War is very good as well. It's basically World War II, War 85. There's too much war, war world, and I'm choking up here. So yeah, if you haven't checked out Nations at War, it's this game set in World War II. One of the main differences is the game uses jets instead of cards for the formation activations. Not a big deal. And I love the game. I mean, who wouldn't? Shermans and infantry and Panthers and Tigers and all the like, but set in this type of gameplay. Really good, really good. Definitely worth checking out. And they do say that future games in the series will also feature solo cards with nationality-specific events, which is cool. So we can expect more expansions for the game. So that's my, was supposed to be quick, gist for World War 85, the review, and what's new for the game. Stay tuned, because like I said, I'm going to do a quick playthrough, something, just a couple maps, just to push counters around, sling some dice, have some fun with it. But I am going to film that large series as soon as I can. Whenever I get the map, I'll go ahead and set it up. I would do it with just the paper maps that I have now, but to do that properly, I would have to use plexiglass, and I've got a sheet of plexiglass that's big enough to accomplish that level of the map. But with filming, I have overhead lights that reflect down to light the game so you guys can see it, and the plexiglass washes it all out, so you guys wouldn't be able to see anything anyway. So I'm going to wait for the canvas one, and I will set that up as soon as I can, and we'll just film a bunch of videos on it, because the game's worth some dedicated time being devoted to it. But that's going to be it for me. You guys make sure you stay tuned to the channel. We are coming up on the holiday season, and as you guys know, we always do some giveaways around the holiday season. Sometimes some other publishers throw in a game or two as well. So it remains to be seen what we've got available for you guys, but we will be doing one of our Whiskey Charlies in December, where we do a big set of giveaways for all the viewers who have been loyal fans and watchers for all these years. All right, that's going to be it for me. You guys stay tuned for the example of gameplay, and I will catch you in the next one.